under other pretenses, but truly it's for that reason. It's because you're not providing 10 post-dated checks, let's say, and someone else is. So although they're not on face value saying this is why you're not getting the rental unit, because they're not allowed to say so, because they're not allowed to require you in theory, in practice, they're actually doing it because Hello everyone, this is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Remax Realtron Realty Inc. As always, back with another video for you guys here today. You can find my contact information in the description box with regards to my Gmail, my office, and my Instagram. As well, feel free to subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Your support in that regard is much appreciated, but obviously you're not obliged to do so. And once again, if you want to get in touch with me, if you have any further questions about anything in this video or any other video I've made, or if you have any general inquiries with regards to Toronto/GTA real estate, feel free to find me via my contact info in the description. So anyways, enough of that. Let's get to the point of today's video, which is 5 illegal clauses that your landlord cannot include in a rental/lease agreement in the city of Toronto, area of GTA, and the province of Ontario. Now, once again, this only applies to Ontario. So if you're living in a different province or a different country, these clauses may or may not be illegal. So I can only speak of my area of expertise, which is Ontario. And if you have any further legal inquiries, please feel free to confirm any of these facts with a paralegal or a lawyer. Let us get started. Number one, your landlord cannot, in the agreement to lease or contract to lease, include a clause stating an annual rental amount increase that is higher than the legal amount allowed, which is a percentage that is determined on an annual basis. Now, obviously for 2021, that percentage is 0% because there is a current rent freeze. However, sometimes that percentage is 1.2, 0.9, 1%, whatever the case is. There cannot be a clause stating a rental increase that is of a illegal amount. And even sometimes when you do sign a contract with a landlord, no party would know what the rental increase would be because the legal rental increase, the annual amount, has not been disclosed yet by the government. Number two, a no pet clause/no pet provision is illegal and cannot be included in a lease contract or a rental contract. The only exception to this is if you're renting a condominium unit and the condominium corporation's own bylaws have a limitation. So that is the only exception. But if you're renting anything freehold, whether it's a basement, a upstairs, a full entire house, semi-detached, townhome, whatever the case is, a no pet provision/no pet clause is illegal. Now, obviously, landlords can state their preference for no pets, but they cannot require you as such to have no pets. And such a clause is unenforceable in a rental contract. But here is where we pick up something, which is the difference between theory and practice. This is in theory. In practice, even though they cannot include such a clause, and we'll touch on this theory versus practice distinction later on, often landlords do refuse tenants on the basis of a pet. So continuing with this theme of theory and practice, number three, a landlord cannot require or as a part of a clause ask for a rent deposit that's more than 1 month's rent for that unit, or any security deposit, utility deposit of any kind. So just to repeat, a rental deposit is allowable, but the maximum amount can only be of 1 month's rent. So if you're renting a place for $2,400, it cannot exceed $2,400 a month, right? However, this is in theory. In practice, landlords ask for first and last all the time, and certain cases get up to a full year up front. Well, when that does occur, and it occurs all the time in practice, let's say you're renting a unit, it's first and last, that's what you're giving up. That is determined between the brokerages. If you're using real estate brokerages, that is determined on the brokerage's paperwork, so agreement to lease, offer to lease. When you actually are signing the government contract, because you have to also sign a government lease as well as of 2019, then you state only 1 month's rent. So this is how in practice it usually occurs. And I'm telling you, when I say usually, all the time. Landlords, what is standard in real estate, in renting and real estate work, whether you're working for landlords or tenants, is first and last. At times, when it's a hot rental market and you're leveraging tenants against each other, some tenants offer 5 months upfront, some tenants offer 7 months upfront, up to 12 months upfront, so the whole year upfront. But the point, once again, is in theory, this is a illegal clause to induce or ask a tenant to pay more than 1 month's rent up front as a rental deposit, and any other security or utility deposit is also not allowed. Number 4, there cannot be a clause stating that you must pay via post-dated check or automatic deposit. So they can prefer this. Once again, they can put on the listing that they prefer the post-dated checks up front or deposits, direct deposits. They can prefer that, but they cannot require you to do as such in a clause or in the contract. Now, once again, this is where the theory versus practice thing comes in, because this is in theory. In practice, they don't put such a clause that there must be 10 post-dated checks. However, if you do not provide 10 post-dated checks, most likely landlords will often refuse your application, turn you down, and reject your application under other pretenses, but truly it's for that reason. It's because you're not providing 10 post-dated checks, let's say, and someone else is. So although they're not on face value saying this is why you're not getting the rental unit, because they're not allowed to say so, because they're not allowed to require you in theory, in practice, they're actually doing it because, once again, you're not providing post-dated checks, or if their preferred method of paying rent is direct deposit, in that case, that's why as well. But once again, they're not allowed to insert a clause that requires and requests as such as a matter of necessity. Number 5, landlords cannot insert any clause or provision that bans subleasing. Now, they can turn down subleasing. They can refuse a sublease application or your request to sublease. However, they cannot insert any clause that states that such an activity is banned outright. So if you see such a clause in your contract or in your lease agreement, then for sure you know that there is a clause inserted that's not supposed to be there. Now, an important point here is I don't even understand why most tenants would ever want to sublease. You actually take on way more liability than you ought to, especially you don't own the property, so the risk reward ratio there is not quite suitable in my opinion. I think subleasing is always a headache for landlords and tenants. I think that's one of the only common areas where both parties agree on something. So ideally you should not sublease. However, if you want to, you can always go to a tenant with a sublease application of some kind. However, they can turn you down. Point here is they cannot insert a clause that outright bans or prohibits subleasing in a lease contract or a rental agreement of any kind. Anyways, if you have any further questions, feel free to contact me via my contact info in the description box with regards to my Gmail, my Instagram, and my office. Lastly, you can subscribe, comment, rate, and review if you happen to enjoy this video. Your support in that regard, as I always say, is greatly appreciated, but you're not obliged to do so whatsoever. As always, thank you very much so for watching. Stay tuned and stay safe.